In this presentation, I'm going to provide an overview of the strengths perspective. To start our time together, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about something that you do at work that you get lost in, something that you enjoy doing, a task or an activity that gives you energy while you're doing it. And when you get done with it, you aren't burnt out, you just long to do this. This is your favorite thing about what you do. You have something in mind? Are you like the monkey thinking? I hope you got something in mind, because what I'm having you think about are strengths. These are the things that we should spend the most of our time doing at our work, are the things that we are naturally good at. And so in this presentation, I'm going to provide an overview of the strengths perspective. What is the strengths perspective? I know hopefully you've been doing some reading on the strengths perspective, and so you hopefully have some idea what that is about, but I want to give you some information about it, about the strengths perspective. And then the other thing I'll talk about in this presentation is what does the current research say about using a strengths perspective in college or higher education. But we need to start with some terms. There's a lot of terms that mean the same thing: strengths perspective, strengths-based philosophy, strengths approach, strengths-based education, the strengths movement, all these terms describe the same things. And what the strengths perspective wants or asks us to do is think what is right with you. That's really what we're going to talk about in this presentation. To get a different voice other than me to teach you about the strengths perspective, I'm going to show you this video from Azusa Pacific University.
What's right with you? The question perfectly characterizes the strengths approach. Hi, my name is Keith Hall, and I serve as the director of the Noel Academy for Strengths-Based Leadership and Education here at Azusa Pacific. And we're so enthused that you're watching this video to acquire just a quick overview about the strengths approach. Now, some of you may be curious, what is this strengths approach all about? Well, I will say this: it is very countercultural. Rather than using an approach that's deficit-based, it really compels us to think about our best resources, our areas of talent, our strengths, and ways that we can develop them and build on them to achieve meaningful results. So this movement actually began with a gentleman by the name of Clifton. He served as the chairman of the Gallup organization. And he asked the question, what would happen if we study what is right with people? And this was during a time when psychology, for the most part, focused on deficits and areas of distress and dysfunction, in a word, pathology. And he said, hey, we should consider human possibility. And so he conducted this research project that focused on high achievers. He conducted over 250,000 interviews with the help of the Gallup organization. And from that research, a few findings emerged. The first one was this: high achievers, they spend most of their time in areas of strength. We also discovered from the research that high achievers, they learn to delegate and to partner. And so they accept the fact that they are not good at everything, but they're surrounded by people who are gifted in areas that they're not. And that's a perfect opportunity to cultivate partnerships. The next finding was this: that high achievers, they spend most of their time on strengths and using their strengths to overcome obstacles and apply them in new situations. From this research, the strengths movement really gained traction. And actually the Clifton Strengths Finder, the tool, was developed. So again, we pose to you, what's right with you?
So let's review the main takeaways from that video. So First part is, or one part is that Donald Clifton is called the father of strengths-based philosophy, and he changed the focus of psychology from a deficit or pathological focus to focusing on excellence, on high achievers, or on the best of the best. And what he found, and what the Gallup researchers found, is that the best of the best, or the top achievers, fully recognize their talents and develop them into strengths. In contrast to underachievers, often fail to recognize their talents and do not develop them into strengths. Top achievers apply their strengths in roles that fits them best, or best suits them, sorry. And this is what really makes them the best of the best. And top achievers invent ways to apply their strengths in order to achieve. They find roles and tasks that are best suited for their gifts and use those and try to focus their time on it, using their strengths. The strengths approach says that weakness fixing is the wrong approach and has incorrect assumptions. And the assumptions is that each person can learn anything, each person can learn to be competent in almost anything. If you try hard enough, you can do it. If you want it badly enough, you can do it. Each person's greatest room for growth is in his or her area of weakness. This is just not true. These assumptions are flawed and incorrect. Whereas the strengths perspective teaches that an individual gains more when they build on their talents than when they make comparable efforts to improve in the areas of weakness. Now, the critical words in there is comparable efforts. And so if we think about this from an athletics viewpoint, when we are trying to improve an athletic skill, should we focus on what that athlete does best more than what they struggle with? If a basketball player is naturally gifted at shooting three-point shots, should we put them in a low post the majority of our practice time? No, we should have them work on their shooting to make them better shooters, because they're going to be better shooters than they are low post players, because that's what they are naturally gifted at. We can work around their areas of weakness, which we'll talk about in a later time in our class, but we should focus on the things that we do well, because we're going to grow more in our areas of strengths more than we will in our areas of weakness. So, spending all this time, what is a strength? A strength is the ability to provide consistent, near perfect performance in a given activity. Okay, so a couple things with this definition is this is an activity. We'll learn at a later time that you will take an assessment called a Clifton Strengths Finder, and that'll give you the results, and those things are your talents. That's not your strength. That is a talent, which makes up a strength. Strength is an activity that you do. It's performance in a task, and that you do this thing well pretty much all the time. Let's look at the components of a strength. A strength is made up of talent plus energy times knowledge plus skills. Now let me explain each one of these. A talent or talents are naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, or behavior that can be productively applied. These are the things that you do without really even thinking much about them. For example, are you competitive? That's your talent. Are you naturally just responsible? This is your talent. We are born with specific talents, and most of the time we don't even recognize that we have them because we just do them naturally without thinking about them. As I said earlier, when we do the Clifton Strengths Finder, this is what the Clifton Strength Finders identifies as our talents. I'm going to talk about energy last, so let's go to knowledge. Knowledge is factual knowledge and experiential knowledge. Factual knowledge is book knowledge, and experiential knowledge is actually doing something with the knowledge that you have. An example that I can give for this is I may know how to teach a PE lesson, but if I've actually never taught that PE lesson, I don't have any experiential knowledge. Our next component of a strength is skill. This brings structure to experiential knowledge. Skills are the ability to perform the specific steps of an activity. Now the skill is you have to have the knowledge on how to throw a baseball, how to tape an ankle, how to do a specific motor skill. But then you actually have to go out and do this skill. You have to actually practice it and learn how to do that skill. That's what is done in a PE class, is the psychomotor skills. Okay, so we got a strength is talent. We talked about that. We talked about knowledge. We talked about skill. Last part is energy. Energy is the time that you have invested in that activity. If the activity is an actual strength, you will feel socially, physically, emotionally, and psychologically charged up before, during, and after doing that activity. Whereas with a weakness, these things leave you completely burned out or socially, emotionally, or psychologically drained. An example I'll provide you with is I get in kind of the zone when I'm modifying curriculum or thinking about modifying the graduate program. I get lost in it. I lose track of time. I enjoy doing it. Look forward to doing that. Whereas a weakness for me, well, then I use the talent that I've been made with, God has made me with. I use this knowledge that I've used from my college background and my professional experience and the skills that I have, and to turn program modification into a strength of mine. Whereas the opposite of that is grading papers. I'm efficient at it. I can do it, and I try to do it effectively, but it leaves me drained after I do it. So even though I have the talent to do it, I have the knowledge to do it, the skill to do it, it drains me. So it's not a strength, it's a weakness. Our strengths, the way that we are made, affects the way we process information, experience life with others, how we view time and structure, how we accommodate to change, and how we communicate with people around us. And there are two main types of strengths. The first type is the strengths of competency, and that's the strength that we've been talking about. This is the way the Gallup organization defines a strength. This is the strength where you produce consistent excellence using your talents, knowledge, skills, and energy. The other strength is called strength of character. These are the positive parts of your personality that impact how you think, feel, and behave, and are the keys of you being the best self that you can be. I'm not going to spend too much time on the strength of character, but I just wanted to let you know about that. Really, the goal here is to use both types of strength in our lives to be the best that we can be in both performance and in character. Okay, I spent enough time just providing you a quick overview of the strengths perspective. Now I want to talk about what has been found in research, and I've primarily used this, got this information from Lewis in a 2012 article. And what Um, the strengths perspective has been researched in a variety of educational settings, including the K-12 and college and university settings. At the college level, the strengths approaches have been introduced to our what's called first year student programs, subject specific courses, athletics, academic advising, student orientation programs, and leadership development programs. And what they have found is that using a strengths perspectives have shown improved or increased internal academic motivation. Students are motivated to be good students and learn the material. Students seem to be more optimistic, have more self-confidence, and have realistic expectation about their own abilities. They are more academically engaged for the demands of the courses. These are all good, positive things. And finally, they have increased grades and improved GPA. We also have seen reduced tardyism and absenteeism, and a reduction in the behaviors that require disciplinary action. These are all good things. The key is strengths development. Strengths development seems to be more effective in improving students' academic engagement, internal motivation, academic control, hope, than does just strength identification. Strength identification is you just take the Clifton Strengths Finder, you get your top 5 talents, and that's all you do with it. We're going to spend a lot of time talking in this class about strengths development. How do you identify your talents, and then how can you identify the things that you're already good at and turn those things into a strength. So at this point, I've provided the foundational information about the strengths perspective, define what is a strength, the components of a strength, the general findings from the using research from the strengths perspective. I'm going to end this presentation, and then we're going to move on to talking about how do we develop in our areas of strengths.